Dear brothers and sisters, what I am about to share with you is nothing short of astonishing. A wondrous event has unfolded within the sacred precincts of Makkah, in the very heart of Islam's holiest sanctuary, where the Zamzam well lies beside the blessed Kaaba. This sacred well, whose water has quenched the thirst of prophets, pilgrims, and believers for thousands of years, has once again revealed signs that leave no doubt about the greatness and power of Allah Almighty. Recently, a group of scientists, determined to study the Zamzam well more closely, descended into its depths. What they encountered was so extraordinary, so utterly beyond the realm of normal explanation, that their voices spontaneously rose with the exclamation, "Allahu Akbar! God is truly the greatest." But what exactly did they see that caused them to react in such a way? Before we dive into the remarkable details of this discovery, let me pause for a brief moment. If you are a Muslim listening to this account, I kindly remind you to support our efforts by subscribing and staying connected, so that we may continue bringing forward such inspiring reminders. And I would also love to hear from you. Have you personally tasted the blessed water of Zamzam? Did you experience its coolness, its refreshment, its unique purity? Please share your reflections and experiences, for every believer has their own story connected to this divine gift. Now, respected viewers and listeners, allow me to take you step by step through one of the strangest and most inspiring scientific investigations ever undertaken within the Zamzam well. At a depth of around 30 meters beneath the ground, a discovery unfolded that shook even the most rational minds of science. The Zamzam well, as you may know, is situated within the sacred Masjid al-Haram, merely 20 meters away from the Kaaba itself. This well is no ordinary source of water. It continuously pumps approximately 20 liters every single second, enough to supply millions of pilgrims who come for Hajj and Umrah year after year. Its depth measures about 30 meters, but the mystery of its supply has puzzled many for centuries. Dr. Mazen Sardadin, a distinguished researcher of Islamic history residing in Makkah, once shared a fascinating account about this well. He recounted the words of a doctor who had been closely involved in an investigation that forever altered how people viewed Zamzam. In the year 1971, a rather unusual claim surfaced that questioned the safety of Zamzam water. A man boldly suggested that Zamzam was not suitable for human consumption. His reasoning was that the Kaaba lies at a lower level compared to the surrounding terrain, and thus, he speculated that sewage water might have seeped into the sacred well, contaminating its supply. This accusation quickly drew attention, for it challenged not only the safety of millions of pilgrims but also the sanctity of a source revered since the time of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. The Saudi authorities, refusing to leave such a matter unresolved, gathered a group of scientists and ordered thorough tests. They wanted the truth laid bare, verified through modern science and global laboratories, so that no doubt would remain. Samples of Zamzam water were carefully collected, sealed, and dispatched to advanced laboratories in Europe where they would undergo meticulous analysis. Here began the first of many surprises. The man chosen to collect the water samples was a chemical engineer by the name of Munaddin Ahmad. He later confessed that this task would change his life forever, for it was the very first time he laid his eyes upon the well of Zamzam itself. When he approached it, he was stunned. For years he had heard of it, read about it, and even drunk from it, yet seeing the well with his own eyes filled him with awe. The well itself was far smaller than he had imagined. It measured only around 18 feet in length and 14 feet in width. To his mind, it seemed almost impossible that such a modest structure could be capable of supplying untold millions of gallons of water every year, and this not for decades or centuries, but since the time of Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail, peace be upon them both. He admitted that this was the beginning of the mystery. When Munaddin descended carefully into the well to inspect its condition, he noticed something very strange. He expected to see streams, cracks in the rock, or visible channels through which the water flowed into the well. But to his astonishment, there were none. There was no apparent source from which the water entered. It seemed to be replenishing itself invisibly. Driven by curiosity and guided by his training as an engineer, Munaddin decided to conduct an experiment. His idea was bold but simple. If he could pump out the water quickly and in large volume, the level would surely drop, allowing him to see from where the water entered the well. Accordingly, a powerful pump was lowered, and the process of rapid extraction began. What happened next left everyone dumbfounded. The water level did not drop. Not even slightly. No matter how much water the pump drew out, the level of the well remained constant. It was as though an unseen hand replenished the well at the exact rate at which the pump removed it. Furthermore, as he stood at the bottom, Munaddin noticed that the sand beneath his feet began to shift and move, almost as if alive. Water was seeping through the sand itself, yet not from any single direction, but from all around, as though the earth itself gave birth to it. With awe, he realized that the Zamzam well was unlike anything known in hydrology. It had no single inlet, no finite source. It was a self-renewing miracle. Once the samples were secured, they were dispatched to multiple laboratories, both in Europe and within Saudi Arabia, for analysis. When the results came back, they only confirmed what believers already knew in their hearts. Zamzam water was unlike any other on earth. It contained significantly high levels of calcium and magnesium salts, substances that provide strength and refreshment to the body. This explained why pilgrims, weary after long journeys and demanding rituals, felt immediate relief and renewed energy after drinking it. But even more significant was another finding. Zamzam water naturally contained fluoride compounds, powerful agents known for their germ-killing properties. This explained another mystery. In almost every other well, aquatic plants, fungi, or microbial growths tend to appear over time, altering the taste, the smell, and the quality of water. Yet, in Zamzam, none of these were present. No algae, no fungi, no impurities. Its taste remained constant, its purity preserved, as though untouched by time. But this was not the end of the wonders associated with this sacred well. Several years later, another team of scientists was sent down into the Zamzam well to investigate further. Their goal was to determine more precisely the source of the water and its flow. However, what they experienced defied their instruments. Despite bringing compasses and advanced measuring devices, their equipment consistently malfunctioned. Compasses spun aimlessly, and electronic devices failed to provide accurate readings. It seemed as though the space itself rejected ordinary measurement. Unwilling to surrender to confusion, the team decided to upgrade their methods. They brought specialized divers with oxygen tanks and high-resolution video cameras, determined to capture every detail. As the divers descended, they made several remarkable discoveries. Within the well lay various objects that appeared to have been cast inside over centuries. Strangely shaped vessels, rare ancient coins whose origins could not be precisely dated, and even fragments of marble with names inscribed upon them. Each object hinted at the countless generations who had come into contact with Zamzam and who had left behind traces of their devotion. One of the supervisors later remarked that when they descended roughly half a meter into the well, they experienced a sensation as though they had traveled back 50 years. Time itself seemed to slow or even stop, surrounding them with an atmosphere of antiquity that could not be explained. As their exploration continued, they reached a conclusion even more astonishing. The Zamzam well received its supply from a mysterious source in the direction of the Kaaba. This source seemed to flow into a natural rocky basin, a kind of reservoir that continually replenished the well. Yet no ordinary explanation could be found for how it maintained its purity and constancy. When samples of this inflowing water were analyzed, the surprise deepened. Unlike other groundwater, it contained none of the microbes typically present in natural water. It was sterile, pure, untouched by the normal contamination of soil or environment. And so the question arose. How can water remain completely pure, untouched by microbes, for thousands of years beneath the earth? The only conclusion possible was that this was no ordinary spring. It was, and remains, a living miracle granted by Allah. At this point, perhaps it is helpful to recall the history of this well, for its origin itself was miraculous. Scholars specializing in the history of the two holy mosques remind us that the story of Zamzam begins with the Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. When Allah commanded him to leave his wife Hajar and their infant son Ismail in the barren valley of Makkah, there was nothing, no crops, no rivers, no food. When the small supply of provisions they carried was exhausted, Hajar, desperate to find water for her crying child, ran back and forth between the two hills of Safa and Marwa. In that timeless moment of despair and faith, the archangel Jibreel, peace be upon him, appeared. With a strike of his wing upon the earth, the ground burst open and the greatest spring of water in human history emerged. Hajar rushed to contain the flowing water with her hands, drinking and giving it to her son. That spring was Zamzam. In time, tribes from surrounding regions, hearing of this miraculous water, migrated to Makkah, giving life to a once barren valley. Later, when Ibrahim and his son Ismail built the Kaaba under divine instruction, the presence of Zamzam made the site the holiest on earth. Centuries passed, and at one point, the Zamzam well was buried and lost. This occurred before the era of Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Abdul Muttalib received repeated visions commanding him to redig the well. Following these divine signs, he unearthed Zamzam once again, and its water gushed forth, restoring life to pilgrims and inhabitants alike. Historically, the Zamzam well stood at the very center of the Tawaf area, where pilgrims circled the Kaaba. It had a copper ring around its opening, with a cover and a pulley system dating back to the 14th century of the Hijri calendar. A copper bucket was even discovered within its depths. As time passed and the crowds of pilgrims grew, the structure above the well was removed. Its access point was shifted beneath the Tawaf courtyard, allowing the pilgrims to move more freely during their rituals. With further expansions of the sacred mosque, all entrances to the well from the central area were eventually closed, enabling a smoother and more spacious environment for worshippers. In the year 1440 Hijri, following tragic incidents where objects and even human bodies had been thrown into the well, a thorough cleaning was undertaken. A specialized team, under expert supervision, carefully purified the entire well, ensuring its sanctity and cleanliness remained preserved. Let us reflect more deeply on why Zamzam water is so unique, not only in composition but also in its history and spiritual role in Islam. To understand the depth of its miracle, we must recognize that wells across the world share certain common characteristics. Typically, a well draws upon an underground aquifer. Its water source is finite, limited, and dependent on rainfall, underground streams, or rivers. Over time, as populations grow and demand increases, many wells dry up, change in taste, or even become polluted due to natural and human factors. Yet Zamzam defies all these laws of nature. For over 4,000 years, since the days of Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail, peace be upon them, the Zamzam well has never dried up. It has never changed in taste, never altered in its essence, and never failed to provide for millions, even as the number of pilgrims multiplied from a handful in ancient times to over 2 million during modern Hajj seasons. How can such a thing be explained? Scientists may attempt theories, but for believers, the answer is simple. It is a direct miracle from Allah, a living sign of His generosity and power. Many scholars have emphasized this point. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya, a great Islamic scholar, once wrote that Zamzam water is, for whatever intention it is drunk. If a person drinks it to quench thirst, it will quench thirst. If one drinks it seeking healing, it will become a cure. If one drinks it to fill hunger, it will suffice. And if one drinks it with the intention of seeking knowledge, Allah will open the door of understanding. Such is the blessing of this miraculous spring. Consider also the unique connection of Zamzam with the rituals of Hajj and Umrah. Every pilgrim who performs the rites is encouraged to drink from Zamzam, to fill themselves with its purity, and to carry it back to their families. Indeed, pilgrims across the centuries have transported Zamzam water in skins, pots, flasks, and bottles, carrying it across deserts, seas, and mountains, so that loved ones far away could taste the blessing. In modern times, airlines departing from Jeddah or Medina even allocate special quotas and packaging for Zamzam, acknowledging its irreplaceable value to Muslims worldwide. The properties of Zamzam water continue to astonish modern researchers. In various international studies, the mineral composition of Zamzam has been compared with ordinary groundwater. It consistently shows higher concentrations of beneficial minerals while remaining free of harmful substances. Unlike bottled waters that may vary in quality depending on source and handling, Zamzam remains constant. It does not spoil, nor does it develop the unpleasant odors or tastes that sometimes affect stored water. Believers see in this constancy another clear sign of divine preservation. Yet beyond its physical uniqueness, Zamzam carries a symbolic message. It reminds every Muslim that when Lady Hajar ran desperately between the hills of Safa and Marwa, she was not simply performing a physical act of seeking water. She was demonstrating ultimate reliance upon Allah. Her faith, her patience, and her perseverance became the cause through which Allah gifted humanity an eternal spring. Today, millions of pilgrims retrace her steps in the ritual of Sa'i, moving between the same two hills, honoring her devotion and remembering that relief comes only from Allah when one strives with sincerity. The well itself has undergone many stages of care, maintenance, and renovation throughout history. In early centuries, custodians of the Kaaba would regularly clean it, ensuring no impurities entered. Records from the Abbasid and Ottoman eras mention how the well was protected, covered, and maintained as part of the sacred trust of serving the pilgrims. Each generation recognized that Zamzam was not simply a source of water but a heritage of faith linking Muslims directly to Prophet Ibrahim, Ismail, and the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them all. Prophet Muhammad himself spoke highly of Zamzam. He drank from it, performed ablution with it, and encouraged companions to do the same. In authentic narrations, he said, "The water of Zamzam is for whatever it is drunk for." This means that intentions matter greatly, and that the one who approaches Zamzam with faith receives blessings accordingly. Companions of the Prophet would drink from it with intentions of healing, strength, and spiritual growth, and Allah fulfilled their needs. Another astonishing fact is the sheer scale of distribution. During the peak days of Hajj, millions of gallons are consumed daily. The Saudi authorities have established modern facilities with stainless steel containers, chilled cooling systems, and pipelines to ensure every pilgrim can access Zamzam easily within the haram. Trucks transport it to Medina, where it is distributed within the Prophet's mosque. And yet, despite such immense consumption, the well remains inexhaustible. When skeptics raise doubts, just as the man did in 1971 claiming possible sewage contamination, science itself refutes them. Not only is Zamzam pure, but it also possesses qualities that ordinary water lacks. Its self-replenishing nature, the absence of microbial growth, the balance of minerals, all combine to affirm that this is no natural coincidence but a divine gift. Let us also recall the symbolic moment when Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad, rediscovered Zamzam after it had been buried and forgotten. His visions guided him, and when he dug at the indicated spot, the sacred water burst forth again. This event signaled not only the return of Zamzam but also foreshadowed the coming of the final prophet, whose lineage flowed through Abdul Muttalib. Thus, Zamzam is interwoven with the story of prophethood from beginning to end. Even today, Zamzam continues to inspire awe in non-Muslims who study it. Numerous scientists and geologists have attempted to understand its mechanics, but the more they study, the more mysteries they encounter. How does a relatively small well provide endless supply without fluctuation? Why does it resist microbial growth? Why do instruments fail within its vicinity? These unanswered questions point to the reality that Zamzam is not bound by the same laws governing ordinary groundwater. It stands as a living miracle, a constant reminder that Allah provides in ways beyond human comprehension. To drink Zamzam is therefore not merely to quench thirst. It is to participate in a sacred history stretching back millennia. It is to align oneself with the faith of Hajar, the patience of Ismail, the trust of Ibrahim, and the teachings of Muhammad, peace be upon them all. Every sip carries with it a legacy, a reminder, and a blessing. For countless Muslims, carrying Zamzam water home is among the most cherished memories of pilgrimage. Families wait eagerly at airports, their hearts filled with joy not only at the safe return of their loved ones but at the arrival of bottles containing the blessed water. When shared at weddings, births, or gatherings, Zamzam symbolizes more than refreshment. It represents connection to Makkah, to the Kaaba, and to the mercy of Allah. As we ponder these realities, we should also take heed of the lessons embedded within. The story of Zamzam teaches us that Allah never abandons those who place their trust in Him. In the barren desert, with no human support, Hajar found relief through divine intervention. Likewise, in our own lives, when circumstances seem hopeless, when every door appears closed, Allah can open a way from where we least expect. The flowing of Zamzam through dry sand is a metaphor for divine sustenance that never ceases.